see the outcome of that. So people are harping on that as if that was a requirement for declaration of results. It was not a requirement, clearly. No.
But was the election a good election?
Well, if you ask me, I mean, I have to look at it in terms of elections that have happened in the country historically. When you look at it historically, honestly, what happened in this election are a bit mind-boggling on the positive side. In the sense that there were many things that happened that couldn't happen in the past. People you expect will just win easily because they are the incumbent, they lost. I mean, so many people, ordinarily, there is a free ticket to go from being a governor to go to the Senate in Nigeria. It's not a free ticket. You don't even have to contest. But you see many of them who contested. At least half a dozen of them contested, they lost. I mean, that is a serious thing. And then you see a number of parties. Multi-party election took place, and many multi-parties won, and they are in the State House Assembly, they are in the National Assembly, they are in the Senate.
Is that a reflection of...
It's a reflection of a good election. It's a reflection of a good outcome. You know, doesn't mean that there were no challenges which are very contentious, which have affected, damaged the reputation of INEC clearly, and they have to dig themselves out of this hole. And I think the leadership has a responsibility to bear as far as that's concerned. But in terms of concrete, measurable outcomes, these are indices that have never happened in the electoral space in Nigeria. And we must accept it and grab it as a way to move forward.
There are those, I mean, for some of us who have followed and monitored activities of election observers, and the EU came and became a sensational one. Some of us would describe it as sensational because EU's report is perhaps a replica or a copy of what a lot of the local observers have actually observed. In fact, there are those local observers or Nigerian observers that have done more intense work than what the EU had done, and they've done it several weeks since after the elections. But if you look at the EU report, I don't know if you've read it or if you've studied it, do you think it was a report that INEC should be considering?
Well, there are many ways to look at the EU report. Yeah, of course, INEC must consider all reports, and all reports must know that they will have their biases. They're coming from a particular standpoint, whether it is EU, whether it is the African Union, which have their own. You must compare that too, because those are our own people. I don't want to say that EU is irrelevant, but those are closer home than the EU are. But the EU must also look at their report vis-a-vis what happens in their own countries, in their own politics, in their own parties, in their own elections in their country. You know, so you cannot use a different standard. And some of the things that EU, I've read the report, they measure, like issue of violence. You can't hold INEC accountable for. You cannot hold INEC responsible for marginal representation. Women are not participating. I mean, I don't understand. So some of all these things are just heuristic kind of claims by EU. I mean, those are standard in their own country. Is that what happens?
But as a people, should we be bothered about EU anyways, or their own report? I'll probably focus on something, some other reports.
No, we should bother about all reports. We should take them and try to sift out things that are relevant and throw away the nonsense that may be contained in those reports. That's the way I would look at it. Everything is not that bad, but a few good things that will be there. The issue of youth participation, the issue of gender representation, they're very good issues. We must find a way to make them part of our electoral law so that they make sure that everybody is got, no particular group is marginalized. So in that sense, pushing that envelope is a good thing. But doesn't mean that they should come here, oh, I don't want to sound as if I'm against EU, really. But really, they must look at things they prefer to vis-a-vis what happens in their own country.
Within the cultural milieu of our space.
Of our space.
Yeah. I mean, without sounding condescending at all, I mean, there are those who are anti any colonialist tendency, any Western or European culture trying to breathe down on whatever practices, I mean, that we have here in the country and look as though we've been here for 200 years practicing this democracy. Yeah. And that, look, like the popular saying, let the poor breathe. Let Nigeria breathe for a moment, in the sense that this is young, but again, we also need to internalize and look within ourselves to say, where did we get it wrong and how can we get it better? First and foremost, as Nigerians, we need to hold INEC also accountable because it's our own. Yes. And we have paid so much to make sure that INEC is where it is today. And perhaps the reason why some people are so agitated about what INEC said and what they did not do. Yeah. For you, with the benefit of hindsight, what is that one thing that INEC did that you think that, with the benefit of hindsight, now looking at it from, you know, what has happened, what do you think is one thing that INEC did that you think maybe they shouldn't have done it?
Well, one thing they shouldn't have done, and I put this squarely on the leadership, is to make promise that was unwarranted. It's more like bravado promise. I mean, in a political situation like this, where there are a lot of uncertainty and minds all around the field, you don't make such promises. I think the INEC leadership overpromised what was not required for it to promise. To say that results will be transmitted live so you can go there and see it as it is being transmitted. That was not
it was for transparency.
For whatever reason it was, but the point is that you have to look at our own
They tried it out in Osun. They tried it out in...
people were not interested, but this is national election now. This is where everything comes together. They tried those things in the U.S. You saw what happened. They were hacking the U.S. So how many people do you have in INEC? I worked in INEC. I know the ICT guys, good ladies that I work there. They're not as resilient to be able to rise up to the challenge of that kind of skill, competencies and technology, to be able to respond to any manner of disruption technologically. Just few guys that are there. So talk about advanced countries like the US, they were struggling. And then you talk about Nigeria. They're not going to rise to it. So the issue of overpromising damaged the reputation of INEC. That should not have happened. I should just stick to what the law says INEC should do and stick to make sure they do that. And the law is very clear. You don't declare with IRA, you don't declare with beavers. It is still a manual process of collation, following the collation procedure from polling units to the ward, to the LGA, to the state, and then to the national level. That is what the law says, and INEC has complied completely with that.
Hello and welcome to the channel. Mustafa Lekki, a former National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, saying that INEC should have stuck with the manual process since it is not yet matured technologically, instead of promising to transmit election results in real time, stressing that the Commission's Information Communication Technology ICT unit is not competent enough to respond to technological disruption in their system. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Electoral Commission INEC has said that the Bimodal Voters Accreditation System BVAS technology used in the 2023 elections recorded a 98% success rate. INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu stated this on Tuesday while addressing the resident electoral commissioners REC of all the states of the Federation at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja. BVAS is the machine used to accredit voters using their permanent voter cards, PVCs, and fingerprints or face recognition technology. Mr. Yakubu, a professor, said the BVAS technology deployed for the elections showed a significant progress of 98% success rate compared to the 29.2% of the smart card readers in the previous 2019 general elections. That's the news, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.